It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines all around the globe. Of course, we start at home in Nigeria as President Bola Tinubu late last night reacted for the first time to the allegations of budget padding by Senator Abdul Ningi from Bauchi State and concluded that those alleging malicious embellishment of the 2024 financial estimate didn't understand its arithmetic. Tinubu said he knew the arithmetic of the numbers that he brought to the Senate when he presented the 2024 budget and also knew what he got back when it was passed. President Tinubu also pledged swift action to tackle Nigeria's pressing security challenges while expressing optimism, confidence in the country's economic progress. Tinubu made this commitment during a gathering for breaking a fast with senators at the presidential villa. Stressing the importance of safeguarding Nigeria's sovereignty and combating insecurity, he pledged support for the armed forces.
Yes, we are definitely challenged. The security challenge is around us. Our armed forces are trying. But we will not allow them to undermine the integrity and the value of our armed forces and the leadership of the armed forces. We will continue to encourage and fight for our sovereignty, our individual rights to exist, banish poverty in our society.
All right, well, it's great to hear direct from the president concerning these pressing issues. Rufai, take it away.
All right, thanks, Bimbai. So the president said a lot, reiterating his commitment to the armed forces, and we must reiterate our commitment to the armed forces because they do a lot of work as regards safety and protection in the country. And I know that also as regards, the mood we are in after the killing of those soldiers, which we totally condemn. But like I've always argued that there are two sides to a story. The people too that complain in some communities that their people to have been killed, by the military and all of that, we cannot but look at those things very strongly and investigate them. I mean, yes, we're hearing many sides to the story. The paramount ruler was saying that the area in southern Nigeria was saying that it was some loyalists to the militants that were engaging the military, and some of them were shot dead. But also we had, the president, Professor Oga of the Ijaw National Congress, saying about the killings that has also happened, in those areas in the community. And we're going to see the report as it comes out. So, I mean, these are things that we should look at very strongly. So we must balance out most sides of the story so that we don't make mistake of the ginger of secret. But as regards the budget, I mean, yeah, the president will say this because he'll defend his budget, he'll defend his turf, but there are facts on ground as regards many frivolous projects in that budget. And when you talk about padding, go and look at the dictionary definition of padding. It talks about frivolities, just to add up to something. And I'll give you some instances. Many projects that was not added, locations. So you can't have exactitude as regards project. Let me take you through some of them. Ministry of Youth, 5 trillion or something were budgeted for projects across the zones, but locations of the project worth 2 trillion, were not indicated. Ministry of Sports, the same thing. Ministry of Defense, location of projects worth over, 10 billion thereabout budgeted, were not indicated. Ministry of Budget Applying, locations of projects were not indicated. And this has constantly been the refrain. I mean, we talked about the fact that construction of boreholes, over how many boreholes in a certain area, and you are telling me that, okay, you're going to spend about 100 million or thereabout. We've also talked about the fact that millions of naira or billions will be used to buy deep freezers as empowerment program. We also talked about the fact that the National Assembly, for instance, they want to build a library. They also want to build an e-library. Somebody will have suggested, why don't you just go with the e-library? They also want to build a hospital. We have a state hospital already that most of them don't go. They go to abroad for treatment. So, I mean, these are lots of these things and the imbalance that the frivolities people talk about. But, He has the right to say his own part of the thing. We also have a right to be able to dig out those things. And these are some of the things. Yeah, Negi might not be able to have presented his case. He might make some faux pas, in his initial presentation. But let's not forget the fact that there were a lot of frivolities, and these things have been coming out as the day go by.
Okay, the big story is the president reassuring the senators of the Federal Republic that they have his support in the controversy about the integrity of budget 2024, over which, one of the senators, Senator Abdul Ningi, had raised very witty allegations about, padding, about having two different types of budget, about setting a certain amount not accounted for and all of that. And you recall that those allegations by Senator Abdul Ningi, heated up the politics, with many people taking sides with him, with the matter almost becoming a North versus South issue, and all of that drama, that developed around that. And of course, the president then got the opportunity to break fast with the senators yesterday. And the first thing he told them was that, look, he understands the numbers. Those who are talking about errors in the budget, they do not understand the arithmetic. Where people know his background as an accountant, as somebody who had worked his entire life, crunching the numbers. And so he was speaking with some authority about somebody who understands how numbers work. That is one. Number two, I think the president also spoke as a statesman, as a leader. He doesn't want the polity to be heated up. And what he did yesterday was to just, use that opportunity to douse tension over the budget implementation, so that, his government will not get embroiled in, that distraction. The third point, of course, is that you will recall that when he signed that budget into law, when the Appropriation Act came before him, the bill came back to him, he said, yes, they had increased the budget by 1.2 trillion naira, but that in the spirit of give and take, he was going ahead to sign it. What the Senate did at that time, the National Assembly did at that time, was to increase some of the statutory transfers. However, the president at that time said there will be diligent implementation, and that there will also be monitoring, and that the heads of the NDAs will give monthly budget performance reports, and that the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Budget, will also monitor very vigorously, to use the word he used at that time. And I think maybe, that's where the focus should be now, if the president succeeds in dousing the tension, the dust raised by Senator Ningi. Now, I recall that at that time, he had said one of the things they did in the budget 2024 is to raise statutory allocation for the judiciary from 165, billion to, I think, 342 or so. And that is precisely what has happened. Last week, he sent a bill to the National Assembly asking for the review of the salaries and allowances of judicial officers. And that has now been done. The bill has been passed. And now we have a situation whereby a justice of the Supreme Court will be taking home at the end of the month about 5 million naira. If you knew what their lordships were earning previously, you'll be alarmed. And then their allowances have also been improved. That's one concrete evidence of implementation, that I have seen, at least in that regard. And I'm sure even the Nigerian Bar Association will be very happy, because the Nigerian Bar Association had also made a case that judges should be better remunerated. President Tinubu also made a point about how revenue has gone up. Now, how that revenue is spent is what the average Nigerian will be interested in. And he says, in terms of the economy, we're turning the corner. Things can only get better. And he told, those part of his audience that, well, you have bread, maybe you need butter, we'll provide the butter. So generally, I think it was a message of hope that the president was putting across. As for the armed forces, yes, as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, he has no other option other than to continue to inspire the troops, because he's their commander-in-chief, and he has to provide necessary support for them. Bringing it up again in that interaction with senators, it's like a follow-up to his promise that, look, the soldiers that fell will not only be given befitting burial, they will also be given national honors. All these are measures, to inspire hope. And that's why I thought, he spoke in a presidential manner. I don't expect that he would be talking to senators and he would be, raising dust about the nature of their work. But in any case, the general concern out there among the people is that the budgeting process itself must be subjected to greater scrutiny, and that a higher level of responsibility is required from everyone involved, either in budget design process or the making of the law itself and the implementation. That's where the general concern of Nigerians come from. As for the argument about padding, there will be no end to it. This is not the first time people will be talking about budget padding. It started even since 1999, even under the Obasanjo administration. And in the future, people will still talk about it. What we need is greater rigor in the budget-making process. That's all.
Right, absolutely. I'm with you on that, Dr. Abati. What the president showed was the importance of signaling as a leader. It's extremely important to take a stand to show and to reaffirm to the nation that the presidency is in charge and they're in control. And we don't expect anything other than reassuring statements of confidence in his government. So this was a positive move. And it's also been refreshing to watch the presidency use this Ramadan period as almost a time to just give feedback on pertinent issues. So it's been refreshing to receive almost these daily updates directly from the president himself concerning things that are pressing Nigerians at the moment. Now, when we look at the criticisms around budget padding and the allegations by Senator Ningi, now, although his premise may have been flawed and erred, we did all witness live what happened in plenary that day, and it almost raised more questions than it did provide answers. And that was in the way the senators chose to handle the situation. It was concerning to see various senators stand up and make allegations, and the narrative that followed after that, with so many discrepancies, and each senator speaking from a different perspective. This was directly from their own experience. So that was concerning because it does still lend us to ask questions about the accountability, especially about constituency projects, which still remains the sticking issue. So we urge accountability. I think, if anything, this would have been a very diplomatic, riot act, reading of a riot act from the president to say integrity. He kept harping on about integrity from the senators. So we do hope that moving forward, we can see more of that in the implementation of especially constituency projects. Now, to other news making the rounds this morning. The Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborobweri yesterday warned traditional rulers in the state against hiding persons involved in the killing of 3 military officers and 13 soldiers in Okwama community, Ugeli South local government area of the state. President Bola Tinubu has disclosed that his administration is sustaining investment in digital technology. This is coming as Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, announced plans to introduce monetization tools for Nigerian creators starting June 2024. On the foreign scene, the U.S. Department of Justice has sued Apple, alleging it monopolized smartphone markets.